Well, howdy, porch sitters. I'm Professor Colton P. Colton, and this is Back Porch History, where we dust off the past and see what still sticks to our boots. Today's story starts with a dollar bill, a farm boy, and a revolution that changed the world. So, grab your sweet tea. This one's a good one. All right, let's get into it. We're going to take a trip back, way back, more than 250 years actually, to get to know one of the most important figures in all of American history. I'm talking, of course, about George Washington. And you know what's crazy? You've probably already seen his face today. Maybe you didn't even notice. Yep, he's that guy on the dollar bill. And on the quarter. Just this constant kind of quiet presence in our everyday lives. But you know, beyond the money, beyond all the monuments, who's the man? What did it really take to go from being a farmer in a British colony to a general in a revolution, and then the very first president of the United States? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. So, to really get who he became as a leader, we have to go back to the very beginning. Back to a young boy growing up in a world that was well about to change in a huge way. He was born into a farming family right there in colonial Virginia. And look, he didn't have a ton of formal schooling, just the basics really. But he was super passionate about a few things: justice, math, and learning about the land. Those passions were going to become incredibly important. And what's really amazing is just how fast things start moving for him. That love for math and the land, it actually leads him to become a land surveyor while he's still a teenager. He's literally out there measuring and shaping the frontier. And then, bam, just a few years later, he's in the Virginia militia, fighting for the British. Now his first shot at military command, well, it wasn't exactly perfect. He definitely made some mistakes. But during the French and Indian War, he started to build this reputation. People started to see him as this young guy who was, really brave, who took responsibility. And this is key, who learned from his mistakes. And that reputation, it was going to stick with him. And all that early experience, it was setting the stage for what would become the defining moment of his entire life. See, the colonies were about to need a leader, and they hadn't forgotten about that brave young officer from Virginia. Okay, so fast forward to the 1770s, and the whole mood in the colonies has just gone south. Tensions with King George III back in England are just boiling over, and it's mostly about one thing: unfair taxes. The colonists felt like they were being taxed without having any say in the government. Something had to give. The American Revolution was right on the doorstep. So, who do the colonial leaders turn to? They chose Washington to lead their brand new Continental Army. And let me tell you, the odds were just staggering. I mean, think about it. On one side, you've got this small, kind of ragtag army with almost no supplies fighting for an idea. And on the other side, the full might of the British Empire, a huge, professional, incredibly well-funded military. It seemed absolutely impossible. But see, Washington's real strength wasn't about what he had, it was about who he was. It was all about his character. He had this incredible courage that never wavered, unbelievable patience, and this deep, deep personal belief in the cause of freedom. That's what he brought to the table. And that resilience? Man, it was put to the ultimate test during that brutal winter at Valley Forge. I mean, you can't even imagine. His army was freezing. They were starving. They were right on the edge of just falling apart. But Washington, he was right there with them, going through it all, encouraging them, and just refusing to let go of hope. It was his leadership, plain and simple, that held that army together. And after all those years of struggle, his persistence finally paid off. In 1781, with some crucial help from the French, the Continental Army managed to trap the main British force down at Yorktown, Virginia. And that victory, that was the whole ballgame. It basically ended the war and guaranteed that the United States of America was here to stay. Okay, so winning the war, that's one thing. A huge thing, obviously. But building an entire nation from scratch, whoa, that was a whole different level of challenge. You know, all Washington really wanted to do at this point was just go home, go back to his farm, Mount Vernon. He was totally done with public life. But the thing is, this new country, it was fragile. It really needed a leader that absolutely everyone could trust. So once again, his country came knocking. And if you want to understand just how much this moment mattered, just look at this one number. 1. In 1789, when George Washington was elected the first president, he was the only one in history to be chosen unanimously. Every single elector voted for him. Think about that. It just shows you the immense, unbelievable trust this new nation put in him. And here's the thing. There was no instruction manual for being president. Washington basically had to make it up as he went along. So, what did he do? He created a group of expert advisors, which we now call the Cabinet. He established the tradition of only serving 2 terms and then walking away from all that power. And he insisted on being called Mr. President, not some fancy royal title. Every single decision he made, setting a precedent, shaping the future of the office. So, you look at this entire life of service, from the battlefield to the presidency. How do you even begin to sum up the legacy of a man like that? Well, after those 8 years as president, he finally got what he wanted. He went home to Mount Vernon. He lived out his last few years as a farmer, passing away in 1799. He had truly given his country everything he had to give. And when you really boil it all down, his leadership kind of rested on 3 key things. First, that courage he showed in the darkest times, like at Valley Forge. Then, the honesty that guided him as president. And maybe the most important one of all, the humility to willingly step down from power and let somebody else take over. And really, that is his ultimate legacy. Through everything he did, as a general, as a president, he helped create a totally new kind of government, a republic where the power belongs to the people, not to a king. So the next time you pull a dollar bill out of your wallet and see his face, maybe think about that whole journey. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about courage and a deep sense of duty, and believing in something bigger than himself. And it really leaves us with a big question to chew on, doesn't it? What does it really take to build a legacy that lasts? And just like that, a farm boy helped build a nation, steady, brave, and willing to serve. If you enjoyed this walk through history, tap like, subscribe, and I'll see you right back here on the porch. I'm Professor Colton P. Colton. See y'all real soon.